17 years ago, if you looked at my life on paper, you would have thought I was living the absolute dream. I had just cracked one of the toughest, most competitive medical exam in the country. Top 100 rank. I was on track to build a brilliant career as a doctor by every single standard society has set for us. I was supposed to be on top of the world. There was just one problem. I felt terrible. Not joy, not pride. Just a cold, suffocating emptiness. I knew I was supposed to be happy, but my brain literally could not process the emotion. And as a medical student, the scariest part was not the numbness. It was that I had no idea what was happening inside my own head. Today I am speaking to you not just as a doctor but as a patient. This is the story of how I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and why the medical system, my own colleagues, and even textbook psychiatry failed to see it for years. If you have ever felt you are drowning while everyone around you think you are thriving, this video is for you. Let's talk about something psychiatry often gets wrong in the practice, the trap of high functionality. Back then, my routine was a living nightmare. I would go to classes, complete my duties, and come back to my room. At 8 pm, I would lie down in bed. I could not sleep until 11 pm, but I also could not move. I was physically paralyzed by mental exhaustion. Every single minute, my brain was repeating a loop. I need to study, I have to study, I have to study. But the moment I sat down and opened a book, nothing. My head was flooded with a storm of thoughts, but I could not process a single line on the page. By Saturday, I was so depleted that I traveled back to my home 4 hours away and binge TV for hours just to reset enough to repeat the same torture on Monday. But here is the twist. I still scored 64% in prestigious university with minimal study time because my talent and test scores were intact. Nobody thought I was sick. In medicine, if you are functional, if you pass your exam, do your job, people assume you are fine. But functionality is not the same as sanity. I was crying out for help, trapped inside a brain that was misfiring. When self help, yoga, meditation stopped working, I did what any doctor would do. I sought medical help. And what happened next opened my eyes to a massive stigma and gaps right inside the medical fraternity. I remember going to a psychiatrist. I tried my best to sit nicely, to talk normally, to present myself as a polite MBBS student. But as soon as I started explaining the sheer agony of what I was feeling, tears just started pouring down my face. I did not want to cry, my body just overflowed. There was a smile on my face. Do you know what I was told? I was told I was being emotionally labile. I was warned, don't behave like this, otherwise, you will be labeled as a psychiatric patient and put on medication. We may overtreat you. Think about the irony. A medical professional treating mental illness as a personal flaw or a badge of shame rather than a biological condition. Instead of exploring the physiology, instead of sending me to a psychologist, I effectively told to pull myself together. So I walked out more isolated than ever. Then tried another psychologist, then another. The turning point came when I joined an intensive yoga course. The schedule was extreme, sleeping at midnight, waking up at 5 am for 3 days. It was kind of a retreat. For a neurotypical brain, sleep deprivation causes fatigue. For a brain wired with bipolar, sleep deprivation is like throwing a lighted match into a room full of gunpowder. My brain went into full blown hypomania. I did not need sleep. My thoughts were racing at a very high speed. I had massive, grandiose idea. I don't consider them grandiose even. I was going around cleaning parks. I was obsessively trying to arrange fresh fruit juice stalls for the entire campus because it ought to be available. Then came the university exam. My mind was so hyperactive that during a 3 hour exam, I wrote whatever I could in just 1 hour, handed it in the sheet, and walked out. And I was sure I'll get pass. But I got supply in PSM and ENT. But there was one professor, my PSM professor, who saw this illness episode. She told me that you will pass the exam if you don't get sick again. I gave the exam. I passed with flying colors. Shortly after that episode, I was put on valproate. Within days, the storm in my head settled. I finally had a diagnosis: bipolar disorder due to antidepressant. But it was just for 1 to 2 days. So it was still doubtful that I have bipolar disorder or not. For 6 7 years, I took medication regularly, but when I get married, I did not tell my husband about my disorder. After marriage, he find out, and he was frustrated. He didn't understand the disease, so I stopped the medication for 3 years. I was functional, I was doing okay. Then, after delivery, I had too many episodes back to back. For 2 3 months, I had these bipolar angers or something like that. I don't know what it was, but that time it was clearly visible that I had bipolar disorder 1 because I had 3 mania episode, two mania, maybe one hypomania. If you read a textbook, bipolar is often clearly defined. A few weeks of deep depression followed by a few weeks of extreme mania. But living with it over 6 to 7 years taught me that real life doesn't follow textbooks. Bipolar can present as mixed state. There were days where I had racing, ambitious thoughts. I want to open clinic, make content, change the world, and simultaneously felt a crushing weight of depression. I am good for nothing. I should resign. I am going to be financial burden on myself. Sometime my mood, my energy, and my entire worldview would shift every 2 hours. One moment I was an outgoing extrovert, and the next I was drowning in an ocean of invisible anxiety, depression, and laden paralysis. Today, through proper management therapy for my anxiety traits and medical care, I operate at 70 to 90% fulfillment. I am enjoying my life, my profession, my family life. I have a kid. I wanted to share this story with you for 3 specific reasons. To break the myth of functionality. Just because someone is scoring marks, earning money, or smiling at work does not mean they are not fighting a war inside. To strip away the stigma in medicine, mental illness is a biological reality, not a character flaw. You cannot treat bipolar with willpower. Doctor get sick too, and we deserve care without judgment. To remind anyone struggling, bipolar disorder is a spectrum. Your mind might feel chaos right now, but right diagnosis, support, self awareness, you can reclaim your life. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who might be silently suffering behind a mask of success.